Hi everyone, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to our webinar today, where we will talk about keeping our families safe online and offline. And what we're hoping to do today is really share some tips and sort of techniques that will help us and our families to navigate this new world where technology and reality is converging ever more. And at the end of the day, we want our kids to remain safe, whether they play on the playground or whether they're online on the computer. So thanks again for taking the time. And with me today is a fantastic lady. I'm really honored to have her with me today. She's the founder and CEO of a company that specializes in personal safety. Her passion is in teaching people to be safe, and she spreads the word across the globe. She's delivered training in the USA, Europe, Thailand, Australia. She's also very active on the continent and has delivered courses in Nigeria, Mozambique, as well as obviously in South Africa. So please welcome Kelee Arrowsmith. Hi, good to have you.
Thank you very much.
So about me, most of you will probably know I'm the founder of security awareness content publisher Popcorn Training. We are now part of KnowBe4, and I've been in cybersecurity for 20 years. But what was interesting is when I first had my initial conversation with Kelee is that I myself actually lack quite a bit of awareness on the physical or real life security. So I'm looking forward to this as much as you do, and I'm hoping to learn a lot from Kelee. So what we're going to cover today is first, I will go into some of the online risks, specifically online risks to our children. And then Kelee will cover personal safety, particularly around kids again. And then we'll have a bit of a discussion and some Q&A and share some tips. Okay, I think first off, going digital is great. Like, first of all, whether kids play online games or not, it's having a computer at home has been proven to to show that our kids perform better academically. And even playing computer games means that they learn creativity skills, it enhances teamwork. So it's all in all, it's just positive to be online and connected. And then on the flip side also, if we understand that there are risks with it, and obviously we have to understand them and be aware of them, but that does not mean that that risk necessarily translates straight into harm. In fact, it's the opposite. Being aware of it means we can do something about it. And there's like a process that we have to follow with our children to, first of all, understand what are the risks, communicate with them regularly, and keep it also in proportion. We don't want to become paranoid and not do anything anymore. And then obviously agree on mediation strategies and develop some strategies that will also prepare them as they grow up to foster resilience and be prepared in a life or in a world that is full of risks, and this is something that is unavoidable. So the way we structure it in terms of the different areas, there's 3 areas that I will talk about. The contact, the content that they're exposed to, as well as conduct. So that's the behavior or the way the kids behave themselves online. So let's go into each of those. So if we look at contact first, I think the number one, unfortunately bad news that we need to be aware of and make our kids aware of is that every single day there are 500,000 of predators out there trying to groom and contact our kids. And even though they target kids of all ages, kids between 12 and 15 are especially susceptible. Usually, like the majority of those kind of contacts happen on chat rooms or through instant messaging on social media. And what we need to do is make our kids aware of it. Currently, only 20% of all the children know that this is actually the case. So we have to do more to let them know that, hey, there's people out there that pretend to be somebody else. The other thing we have to make our kids aware of is that, and this is another sad statistic, is that nearly half of them, or 40% of them, remove their privacy settings because they think they can attract more friends or followers that way. Unfortunately, they will also attract the attention of these predators. So we need to, again, reiterate the importance of having privacy settings on these social media accounts. One way to teach kids how to identify whether a profile is fake or whether there's a predator behind a profile is to teach them how to spot these fake profiles. Also remember that it's not just predators that sit behind these fake profiles. There's also bot generated, so automatically generated fake profiles that are out there en masse. So one way to check these profiles is the first thing you do is you go to the profile picture, you right click, you copy that picture, and then you go to Google image search and you see if that same picture isn't appearing somewhere else. Often they use stock photos or models, but also they may also steal photographs from other people or real people. So if that image appears somewhere else attached to somebody else's name, you know, oof, this is suspicious, that could be a fake profile. There's also sites like Tinai where you can do a reverse image search and just see if that image has been linked to somebody else. The other thing that is suspicious, and this applies, by the way, also for online dating sites, or, you know, it's not just for the kids on social media, but talk to your friends and families about online dating as well, because these techniques are being used there quite a lot too, that these fake profiles are being used to scam us. So another dead giveaway is if they only have 1 or 2 profile pictures. So if there's not a lot of other pictures, that might be a giveaway. If the bio information is a bit odd, if there's not much on their wall, or conversely, if they have a hell of a lot of likes, because that's again a giveaway that it's a bot generated profile. One thing to talk to our kids about how to spot predator behavior is that we have to remember that it's not a particular look or anything like that. It's how they behave or social engineer our kids or their victims. The first thing they try and do is build some sort of rapport, or like they try to build trust between, you know, the victim and themselves. And they do that by pretending that they share similar interests. They sometimes are very complimentary. They offer gifts. They are super nice. They never disagree with anything that you might say. They ask for personal information relatively quickly. They may also, again, in the online dating world, they may go and try and get out of the app and sort of try to converse directly via email or instant messaging like WhatsApp or something. They try and turn you against other people, specifically with the kids, against the parents or their friends. Sometimes they share stories that make no sense at all. And they may also very quickly either steer the conversation towards sex and ask for explicit photos or photos of the victim. They may know about your friends and the family. And quite dangerously, they will try and put pressure on the target to make them feel like it's normal what they're doing, or it's normal to share photographs. And so it's so important to you know, to speak to the kids and make them aware of that it's not normal. Make them aware of that they may hide behind these normal looking profiles. Like they use teenager pictures of other teenagers. So if any of that kind of behavior, if they come across that, even if it's just something, hey, this person is super nice, it's just a bit odd, let them talk to you and help them to figure out, is this real or not? And obviously, as soon as the question for explicit photos comes up, or sometimes even they may ask for money, again, I'm referring to the dating world, as soon as their requests for photos or for money, that's a dead giveaway that you're dealing with a scammer or a predator. Other signs that you may look out for is, unfortunately, these groomers will often put pressure on the targets to keep it a secret or not to talk. But there are some signs, like if the kid spends too much time online, if it becomes very secretive about their behavior, if they shut down the computer screen. Obviously, we have to respect our kids' privacy, but you'll see if they behave differently, if they use language that they haven't used before, specifically words that are of sexual nature, if they become very volatile. All of those are sort of signs to just be a bit more vigilant, I guess, and look at what they're doing online. There's also a lot of sort of abbreviations that parents should know, acronyms that the kids use themselves, you know, like parent over the shoulder, parent alert, that's P911. Those are all like little code words that we as parents should be well aware of, and again, be alerted if we see our kids using that. So what's important? What should we talk to our kids about? Well, teach them how to set up a safe social media profile, how to apply privacy settings. Don't share any personal information, like birthdays, address, even surname. Don't put that on there. Like, come up with a fake name, and learn how to identify those red flags and how to report and block the predators. There's a really great, I don't know if you've seen that, Kelee, there's a great YouTube movie of a mother who, she poses as an 11-year-old girl, and then how quickly she gets sort of targeted by these predators. So for any moms out there, do yourself a favor, just Google on YouTube mom posing as 11-year-old. You will find that video, and it's shocking what's actually out there. But I think it's important for us to be aware of this. How do we set up a safe social media profile? Well, first up, teach your kids how to come up with a safe, strong password, and I'll talk about that just now. Use an alias, not your real name. Don't include any personal information. I mentioned this before. Show your kid how to block others, and this also applies to bullies, by the way. So it's not just the evil sexual predators. There are also other kids who can be really mean, and it's important to block these kind of this behavior and those profiles. The settings need to be changed to private. It doesn't matter if your kid wants to be the next Instagram influencer. Don't let them have public profiles. It's just not cool to having children's photographs and their lives being displayed to the whole public internet. Also consider the minimum age is 13 at the moment for social media accounts, and I think we should respect that. Don't let them have a social media account if they're 8 years old. It's really not necessary. Switch off location service and tell them that whatever they post will be there forever. So if you don't want it on your t-shirt or on a billboard, don't post it. And basically the think before you post needs to be in their mind all the time. I've touched on cyberbullying a little bit. I think it's important to also bring that up, even though it's not so much around safety per se, but I think it's just a reality of today. And I guess, again, the reality there is that the kids generally don't speak up about it. Only 2 in 5 kids or pupils or learners would talk about it because they feel embarrassed, or they feel they don't want to rat others out. But it is important to talk about it and get them to trust you enough so that they will come and talk to you about this. So if you see that your kid has ever been fallen victim to cyberbullying, the first thing to do is take a screenshot of the actual event, like keep the evidence, report it both to the school as well as to the social media account itself, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, and then block, like don't react to the bully, block the bully. And if it's really terrible, you may even want to take it further and lay a case against it. Don't ever react to it, because that's exactly what they want us to do. I mentioned the don'ts, like don't retaliate, don't react to it. Don't stop your kids from going online. They have to learn how to deal with this kind of behavior. Unfortunately, it's the reality of today. Don't let them deal with it alone. Be there for them. And don't stop the trust and the communication flow with your kid when it stops. So that was very high level. We spoke about contact. We're now going into content, the kind of stuff that they get exposed to, as well as the conduct. If we talk about content, 50% of the kids say somebody has been nasty to them online. 11 years is the average age by which our kids see something pornographic for the first time. And 1 out of 3 of children have seen explicit images by the time they are 10. So that's really, to think about that as a parent, it's horrific, but it's the reality. And it's not just pornographic material, that they get exposed to. There's a lot of other horrible content on the internet, whether that's hateful, racism, terrorism, self-harm sites, obviously illegal activity, gambling, any sort of extremism. So there's a lot of stuff that we just don't want our kids to be exposed to. And I guess, again, the message here is to have that level of trust and communication flow with your children, to talk about it and get them to talk to you if they see anything that is upsetting. And don't scold them if they come across something. Let them talk to you, and then you help them to sort of block that kind of stuff. Very important to put parental controls in place. You can do that directly on your router. There's something called OpenDNS. If you Google it, you'll find it. It's relatively easy to set up. But you can also do it on the actual devices themselves. There's safe search on Google as well as on YouTube. And there are even kid-friendly search engines that you may want to set up and then let your kids use that rather than Google, like Kiddle, Kidtopia, etc. You can also set up parental controls on the mobile devices. Google Family Link, if you use Android, that's really good. So you set that up on your device and any device that your kid may have, and it gives you the ability to really sort of control which sites and apps you want your kids to access or not access. And then the same on the iPhones or the iOS devices. There's something called screen time that you can go to if you go to settings and then screen time, and there you can control what your other devices that you link to or your kids' profiles can and can't do. So I highly recommend you do that. And then lastly, conduct. So I mentioned the t-shirt test. It's really, the fact that whatever we share nowadays will be there forever. In a way, I'm actually quite glad that when I was a teenager, there weren't any cell phones. But it's important to, again, warn the kids about it. Also, what they download. Don't let them download illegal things, sexting. If they're interested in hacking, rather get them to join the security industry and don't let them go into any sort of illegal activity. And the way to talk about this is to really do the t-shirt test. So ask them, would you walk around with that message on the front of your t-shirt? If you wouldn't, then don't post it. Even if you think it's in a private like WhatsApp message or on a private social media account, it's not private. As soon as you share it with one person, publishing law applies in South Africa. That means somebody could take a screenshot and then it's for the world to see. So don't share anything you wouldn't want printed on your t-shirt. Think about the future. When they download sort of cracked software or I don't know, like free software, make them aware of the fact that there could be malicious or bad stuff hidden in there. And if they're really interested in becoming a hacker or sort of in the hacking world, then rather let them join the InfoSec security. There's much more demand there, much more money to be made, and they can come and talk to us if they're interested. Just some general security practices if you go online. Something that we talk about a lot is so-called people hacking or social engineering attacks, and that's really the number one way that bad guys get onto networks, that they get information. All the data breaches you see that sort of make headline news, 90% of those started with a social engineering attack, and that is usually done through phishing. So you get an email or even a phone call or WhatsApp message that will try and rope you into doing things you wouldn't usually do. So again, important to be aware of it yourself and talk to your kids about it, to never click on anything that you haven't expected, even if it comes from somebody you trust. Often they can compromise other people's account and then sort of distribute the bad stuff through these accounts. So even if it comes from your friends, your family, don't trust it unless you're 100% sure. Keep all your systems updated, and have some antivirus or anti-malware software that you keep updated on your devices. That includes Apple devices, by the way. Apply privacy settings on your social media accounts, and use good passwords. When we say good passwords, there's actually quite a bit to it. It's the first thing I always recommend everybody, including my friends and family, is to use multi-factor authentication wherever possible. That is something you download an app on your phone, Google Authenticator, for example, and whenever you log into a site, you don't just use your username and password, you use a one-time password that is generated by the app on your phone. that makes it much more difficult for a bad guy if they happen to crack your password or find your password somewhere else or steal it. They also have to then get your one-time password or that key on your phone in order to get in. Another thing that we preach all the time is to create long and unique passphrases rather than a password. So, for example, you could use like a song that you like and just use the first letters of that phrase or the whole song, and it's easier to remember than having to come up with a complicated password. Using a password manager, I would absolutely recommend that. I wouldn't know what to do if I didn't have a password manager. I mean, we all have like hundreds of passwords. And another thing to do is every now and again go to a website called haveibeenpawned.com and see if your email address and your password has been breached or leaked on other sites. And don't be surprised if it has. It's quite common. There's just so many sites, including reputable sites like LinkedIn, etc., where the database of usernames and passwords have been breached before, and that means that email address with the associated password is now available for sale on the dark web. And what the bad guys do is they use these lists and try them out on other accounts. So the message here, very important, don't use the same password everywhere. Make sure you change it every now and again, and use unique passwords and two-factor authentication wherever possible. This is just maybe for the youngsters, like a trick on how to come up with a really complicated long password is you think about a song and then you just use the first letters of each word, and that gives you like a complicated looking password, but you just remember the song, and then you can add things like a date and an emoticon to make it even more complex. For the older ones, those are our songs. Same story. So you use the first letters of each word, and that gives you your password stem, and then you just use a number, and sometimes you might even use that as a password stem and then add at FB for Facebook or at whatever, IG for Instagram, so that you remember the stem, and then you make it unique by changing the post or prefix. Another thing that we recommend families to do is set up an online agreement. This is a little bit like a policy or a contract you discuss with your kids, and let them sort of, read through it with you, discuss it and sign it. And it really sort of defines the rules of what we deem okay and not okay in terms of online behavior. And we have templates for that. You can also Google for it. It's a really good idea to do that. There's some other great free resources that you may want to go and have a look at with your kids. And that's really it in terms of the key takeaways from an online safety. And I'm going to hand over to Kelee next, but just to wrap up, so cybercrime is targeting us, the people, and our kids. Make sure that by being aware of it, you already have done so much in terms of the initial defense and protection. And if you just take one thing away, I suppose it's applying good passwords and critical thinking. Thanks so much. Kelee, I'm going to hand over to you now.
That was really awesome. I really, really enjoyed that. So it was so interesting to see how much online safety is similar to physical safety. So we run something called the BEAR program, and this is Max the Bear. And it's really for parents to teach parents how to teach their kids about safety. Because really, parents always want me to come and do a talk for their kids, which I can, and I do. The problem is that kids don't listen when you tell them something once, number one, and number two, you actually have to role play it with them. So kids have a lot of threats. You mentioned quite a few of them, sexual predators, bullying. So you really, as you say, have to have strong rules around that. UCT did a study a little while ago, 2016, and basically what they found is that 1 in 3 young South Africans under 18 are sexually molested. of this. They interviewed thousands of kids across South Africa. So boys and girls are equally vulnerable, okay? But a lot more girls report it, although still very few, because, as you said, they're afraid. Child molesters are very, very clever. They know how to get the kid interested, okay, and how to break down the boundaries. So what we do, you understand that you can't watch your kid 100% of the time, even though you would want to, but protect them. And what parents do is they go, they protect them as much as they can. And then when they're 18, they kind of say, okay, bye, honey, have a nice time at college and stay safe. And the kid goes, I don't know what you mean. So we need to start actually from probably around 4, I would say, is a good time to start. And really talk about safety as opposed to the bad things. So with Bear, we try not to talk about the bad things. We talk about bad guys, but not in a terrible, not in a scary way. So you actually have to teach them to keep themselves safe. This is a picture of my granddaughter when she was about 5. She's now 20. And I've been working with her on personal safety since she was about 4 or 5. And she really has been in a few very sticky situations. She did exactly the right thing. And I'm very proud of the way she handled it. Again, a lot of it's got to do with doing it over and over. So I want to talk about child molesters, which you also mentioned. So they test the victims and they test the parents. So if they find they can't get past the parents, they'll move on. So normally a molester won't work on one child at a time. Even online predators, they will try and get it in, they'll start grooming as many as they can, which is really scary. So 90% of kids that are molested by people that are close to the family. So it'll be family members like uncles, grandfathers. It'll be people that are close to them, especially people that are in positions of power, like teachers, coaches, etc. So we have to teach the kid. We can't do it for them. Also, molesters will molest on average, they'll molest between 200 and 400 times before they actually get caught. And getting caught doesn't really mean that they go to jail, okay? Normally, they'll get caught by one of the family members and they'll cry and promise never to do it again, and it was the first time. And so also because of the shame, nobody says anything. So how do you start talking to your child? It's always the big question. In all the training with kids that we've done, okay, we normally ask them, so if you get into trouble, who will you tell? And very seldom is it mom or even dad. It's normally the grandparents and when we ask them why, they say because mom will get cross, number 1, and number 2, mom doesn't listen. Mom's always busy. Mom's cooking, mom's working, mom's running around. So to start talking to your kids about safety, you need to stop what you're doing, sit down, and make it a game. Make it some kind of a thing that you can do with them on a regular basis. The other thing I did with my granddaughter is we made hand puppets from socks, and I would talk with the hand puppet. So that's very non-scary. So the first thing we talk about is boundaries. So what is a boundary? And immediately with adults, your mind goes to myself, so kids don't really understand that. So I normally start with a simple thing like a wall. A boundary is a wall. So a wall in front of your home says, this is my property and what's outside is public. Okay. So that's kind of it starts to help the child understand safety. So I'm safety behind my boundary. I'm safe behind my boundary. Another example of a boundary could be a door. So a door is a boundary that you can open and you can let safe people in. Okay. So what does a bad guy look like? A bad guy is not about looks, and you did touch on that. A bad guy is somebody with bad intent. And so it's normally somebody who will do something that's not normal. And so when we start role playing with our kids, and that's something that I suggest that you do start doing with your kid, you want your kid to come to you for help. How do they do that? Mommy, 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 mommy. You hear that all day. So you don't know that they actually need help. But we'll go through that in a second. Another kind of boundary, so we're getting closer to the me boundary. Another kind of boundary is maybe a line on a tennis court. Okay, that's a boundary. When the ball is in, it's in. When it's over the line, it's out, and it's a foul. So you start to bring that nice kind of safe. The ball is safe. If it's outside, it's not safe. It's bad. It's a foul. It's a mistake. Not allowed. So boundaries are really important. Then you can start talking about the child's body as a boundary. So your body belongs to you, and nobody is allowed to touch you. So one of the mistakes that we make is we give them a rule, and then we give them something that breaks the rule. Okay, so for example, nobody's allowed to touch you except, well, the doctor and the nurse so you don't give them any things that break that rule. Nobody is allowed to touch your body except for you. And if you need to, so if you go to the doctor and the doctor needs to have a look somewhere, you can say, it's okay, it's safe, mom is with you. So you make that exception in the moment, if that makes sense. Because it just confuses the kids. We have to really start being a lot more clear. So another thing would go, don't take sweeties from strangers. So that doesn't really help the kid, because that child molester knows how to overcome that no. And if the child doesn't know that no is their boundary, then they don't know that what the child molester is doing. When you break a rule or a boundary, there's a consequence. So we start to teach the kid how to enforce those consequences. So for example, one role play with a 4 or 5 year old will be, so what happens if somebody does something that you don't like? Somebody at play school. So for example, they touch your hair. What do? And then you start role playing. You go, okay, you touch my hair. And then you go, please don't do that. I don't like it. Okay, my turn. And then you touch the child's hair, and it'll be giggles and fun, and that's fine. It starts to plant those boundaries and enforcing the boundaries, if that makes sense. Okay, so when I first started teaching my granddaughter safety, I did it completely wrong. I didn't know any better, and I frightened the poor kid to death. I would do things like, if somebody breaks in, some bad guy breaks in, you need to run and hide. And she became quite fearful. So what I did was I went to talk to a clinical psychologist that works with children. And I said, look, this is the safety program. And she went, oh my goodness, it's an excellent program, but it's terrible. You can't do that. And she taught me about sandboxing. So sandboxing is really role playing. And I combine my role play live with role play with their favorite animal. Okay. So my granddaughter used to love dinosaurs. So I'll give you an example of sandboxing. So this is a Tyrannosaurus Rex. We know he eats meat because he's got massive teeth. Okay. This is a Brontosaurus, and he's a veggie eater. So we'll pretend that we're eating. So I'm the Brontosaurus, and this is my granddaughter. And oh my goodness, there's a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And then I go, what must I do? And I speak to the Tyrannosaurus, but my granddaughter is holding so she goes, run, Granny. Okay. And we run. Okay. And I go, I don't know where to go. Hide, Granny. And then I hide the Brontosaurus. So this is a really nice way of working with your kids in a non-frightening way, because it's not related directly to them. and it's called sandboxing. And as you develop it, if your kid has, a little kid, obviously a teenager won't do it, but if your kid has a specific question that they're having a tough time talking about, because kids experiment, okay, it's normal. They want to talk about it, but they don't know how. Go, okay, we can either use the hand puppets, okay, or we can use, so it's completely safe. So you tell me what you need to tell me, it's okay. And you talk to the animals like that. So that's a good way to get your kids started with safety. You need to bring them into your safety plans that you have at home. So, you know, a lot of people are afraid of home invasions, and you have to include your kid in that practice. So instead of going, well, let's pretend somebody broke in and we'll all run to the safe room, you can say, so put some chocolate in the chocolate room, and you sit in front of the TV. Now you're practicing to get into your safe room. Then you would say to your kid, when I say the word, and we all know what the word is, that's our safe word, we're all going to go to the chocolate room, and the last one in gets the least amount of chocolate. And then my emergency word or safe word was Jason. Okay, and we sit in front of the TV, and I go, Jason, and then we all run to the chocolate room, and we eat chocolate. And so safety shouldn't be scary for the kid.
Would you, I mean, I really like that concept, but would you explain it to them in some form of context, or not at all? You just play it out as a chocolate room, for example. Would you ever talk about it in a nice way to say, if we ever had to hide away, then that's where we go? Or do you just not even go there?
You know, they figure it out, and they will ask the question. Like, my friends don't do this, why are we doing this? And then you go, because we really care about our safety. So rather than go because there's a lot of bad guys and they hurt people, we rather go because we care about our safety and we want to keep ourselves safe. So, you know, but every kid is different, and parents know their kids well. So if you think it would work better that way, then you should do that. But I really find that you really want to try and err on the side of safety, safety, safety. They will ask about bad guys, and, you know, then you bring them back to boundaries. So that's why mom teaches you boundaries, because boundaries keep you safe from bad guys. It just prevents the fearfulness. So you also touched on secrets. Okay. So what both online and in-person predator will do is, that's how they test the child's boundaries. They'll say, can you keep a secret? And if the kid goes, yeah, because the kid's interested. I mean, you know, it's kind of, we teach them, nope, no secrets, no secrets. Secrets are bad. Okay. So what they'll do is that games, so let's play the secret game, and then there'll be unwanted touching, right? And that should break the kid's boundary. So the kid will immediately say, no, stop, I don't like it. But again, you have to role play. So to get back to the hair example, so I'll go, you know, I'll let them touch my hair first, and I'll go, please don't do that, I don't like it. And then the giggles again, and then I'll touch their hair, and then they'll go, don't do that, I don't like it. Then I go, okay, that's excellent. You know, don't try and force them to be more forceful. It just comes through practice. Then you go, but why are you being like that? Your hair is so beautiful, I just want to touch it. And then, you know, you go, okay, you do that to me. And then they'll say, but why are you being like that? If you do that again, I'm going to tell. So that's what a molester doesn't want, even an online predator. So I like to tell the parents, tell your kids that when they try to tell you to keep a secret, or when they start something that makes you uncomfortable, you either block them immediately, or you say, you know what, now I'm going to tell. And that fear of being exposed is their biggest weapon. So on unwanted touch as well. So sometimes unwanted touch is not meant badly. For example, my gran, she always used to have to pinch my cheeks, oh, you're getting so big. And I used to hate when she came to visit just because of that. And what I learned to do was I learned to intercept it. So it's another role play you can do with your kids. As the unwanted touch extends to you, you gather the hands in your hands, pull them together, say, come, Gran, I want to show you my new toy. So that prevents that unwanted touch. And again, role play, practice. When you teach your kid to get off the potty, you don't go, okay, that's it, you're old enough, off the potty. Okay? You practice it and you practice it and you focus on it and you concentrate on it. And it's the same with safety, whether online or in person. So here is where you might make an exception to the no secret rule. And that's, you have to think about it, okay? My exception to that would be only if there is an end date. So for example, a surprise birthday party, okay? So that is a good secret. If there's no end date, no. And so what I would do, so I'll pretend now that you're my kid and I would go, so I want to tell you a secret. And then you do that to me, Anna. So I'm going to role play with you. You tell me to keep a secret.
Mm-hmm. Kelee, keep a secret. Can you keep a secret?
No, I can't. If you tell me anything, I'm going to tell everyone. Secrets are bad. So now it's my turn. Anna, can you keep a secret?
No, I'm not. I'm going to tell. Secrets are bad.
Can you see how difficult it is? So
yeah.
it's difficult. And parents don't understand that you can't just tell a kid something, you have to role play. So they don't understand what you mean. And even if they do, it's difficult. And that's exactly what I like that. You giggled, you felt funny. And that's what happens with the kids until they get used to it, and it's really very powerful. Okay, so I'm going to give you some age guidelines. Every kid is different, okay, and we know our kids. So the training that you do with your child needs to be clear and age appropriate, okay? So certain questions will have different answers at different ages. Okay, so I'm not going to read all of this, but this gives you kind of a guideline by age as to what you can start introducing. And it just so happens, I said from around 10, you need to do online safety, but I would start with that earlier. So if your kid, so what happens often is the child will play with the parent's phone, okay? So I would talk about online safety with my phone. So you know what mom does? Mom is very careful when I, and so on. So use examples. Again, it's kind of a role play. And then 13 plus, you need to, of course, bring in, the sexual, appropriate stuff. So even though it's uncomfortable, you have to role play certain things. So another thing is we tell our kids, you can tell me anything, but we don't tell them how to do it. So what we'll do again is we'll role play. So I'll be the kid and you'll be the mommy. And I go, mommy, 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 I got to tell you something, mommy, mommy, mommy. It's what you do all the time. So what I want you to do, so I'm going to be the kid now and you're going to be the mommy. And I'm going to say, Mom, this is really important. I need to talk to you now. And so you start to get that. And when you hear specific words, you then stop whatever you're doing. You sit down and you go, okay, tell me what's going on. And if they're still young, bring in the dinosaurs. If they're older, they'll be used to talking to you about things to do with safety that affect them. So I would also discuss with them, who would they talk to? So what if mom's not around? What if you're at school? Who will you talk to? I'll talk to my history teacher. Okay, what are you going to say to them? I'll be history teacher, you be kiddie. What are you going to say? And so role play that with them, because kids are scared of teachers. It's very difficult for them to go and say, Mr. Brown, Peter is bullying me, because they don't know how to do it. So even the most simple thing like getting help, you need to role play it with them. What to do if? So what happens if your kid is kidnapped? My granddaughter, there was an attempted kidnapping with my granddaughter probably about 5 months before she left the country. 2 guys in a white truck tried to take her. So it's real, okay? And we need to know what we need to do. So number 1, don't wait 24 hours. That's a fallacy. The moment you have an inkling that your kid is missing, report it immediately. Go to SAPS, fill out it's called a 55, okay? Insist. If they go, no, you have to wait, insist. Go up the chain of command. It is serious, okay? Also contact Missing Children South Africa, and I've got the numbers up there, as well as the Pink Ladies. They are excellent. A lot of the kids that go missing are actually found, okay? Also make sure that you have a current photograph and that you know what your child was wearing, because that's a big help, especially in those first couple of hours. So safety really is starting with those little steps until your kid is confident to take those steps on their own, okay? You take one step at a time, plan your training. So what I did was I had a little book called, my granddaughter's nickname was Tick Training, a personal safety training, and I would write down the different things that we had done. And if she mentioned something in the car, and it wasn't the appropriate time to discuss it, okay? Because I would need, she might say, oh, such and such was mean to me, blah, 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 blah. And she was 6. I would go home, write it in the book. And then when we had some time together, or when it was, kind of safety training time, I would take out the dinosaurs and we would role play that. Remember, you told me that Laura was being mean to you? Let's practice how you're going to get around that. Okay, so practice. That's what safety is about. So that's kind of a brief overview of the bear and personal safety training for kids. And you can see how close it is to what you do.
Yeah, it is. And thanks so much for that, Kelee. And it is sort of a wake-up call also as a mom myself, to take this more seriously and do like a structured approach.
But I must say that the earlier you start, the better. Really think of ways to teach them about awareness. So if you're out and about and you see something suspicious, like for example, you see a guy walking, looking into cars, point it out, but not, look, that's a bad guy. Point it out. Why do you think that guy's looking in the cars? Is that normal? So start to teach them to recognize normal as opposed to not normal. There's other games you can play with them. So for example, you can go into a restaurant, and then when you sit down, you go, how many people at the table behind you? So you make them start to look. So awareness is not just about doing that. Awareness is really about looking, okay, and seeing. There's a difference between looking and seeing, and about understanding what you see. So I see the guy looking in the car. I understand that that's bad, okay? It's not normal. And then linking an action to that. So if that guy came and looked into our car, we would drive away. So linking an action to that recognition skill, if you would.
In terms of self-defense in a home intrusion scenario, which hopefully we never have to get there, but I'd like to know what would your advice be there? Like, is there also training that one can do to prepare for that? If you're not into guns, what is the alternative? I'd like to hear what I mean, and unfortunately, in South Africa, it is a reality, right? Like, it is just unfortunate, something we need to think about. And when you have the kids, like, what would you, I mean, I like the scenario that you used with the chocolate room and doing the sort of role playing and testing it every now and again to have the safe room and then teaching them how to escape to that. But yeah, I'd like to hear what your thoughts are.
So, I don't say people should have guns, and I don't say people shouldn't. I think people need to decide, they need to think about it. It's a big responsibility, as with any personal safety tool. The thing I mentioned a little while ago was called a burner, BYRNA. It shoots it shoots pepper balls and plastic balls, and so it's non-lethal, as opposed to a firearm, which is potentially lethal. Just because somebody gets shot doesn't mean that they're going to die. But so to answer your question about home safety, there is a process. So what I do is I teach people about the layers of safety. There's 4 layers of safety, and I'll just go through them very briefly. So the first layer is your barrier layers. Barrier layers is anything that you have to go over, under, or through. So for example, your wall, your electric fence, your front door, your burglar bars. Now, burglar bars, barrier layers are not for everyone. A lot of people don't like them. They say, I don't want to live in a jail or whatever. And that's fine. Then you need to focus on your other layers. So your second layer is your warning layer. Your warning layer could be dogs, could be beams, could be cameras, anything that gives you a heads up that somebody has breached your barriers. So for example, you have beams or a dog, and the dog starts barking. What do you do with that? So warning layers. Your next layer is your alarm layer. Your alarm layer means that they've breached your warning and your barrier layers, and they are in your home. So I think that your alarm layer needs to sound different to your warning layer. What a lot of people do is they have an alarm and beams, and the alarm goes off, the siren goes off, and they don't know whether the people are inside the home or still in the yard. So that needs to sound different. And basically your alarm layer is there to, in my opinion, let the baddies know that they have a very limited time with you. So the moment you suspect that somebody's in your yard or whatever, if your alarm hasn't gone off, so for example, if your beams are not set, I would push the panic button, because the baddies hear the panic button and they know that they have a limited time because help is on the way. Your fourth layer is your safe room. Okay, so your safe room, you should, depending on your house, so if your house is like in an L shape, you might want to have 2 safe rooms. You want your safe room to be easy to get to, and you need to practice getting to your safe room from different rooms and from outside. So it's really about, to answer your question, it's about planning. What we have to do with safety is we have to think it through in detail. Exactly what you do online. So you have to think like the bad guy. You have to go, where am I vulnerable and how am I going to mitigate that risk? And it's really about role playing and practicing.
But it is interesting to actually sit down and this is one of the homework I will do, is sit down with my husband and do that planning, because we haven't done that enough, and also what you said with the different alarm sounds, that's very interesting, like having an alarm on the outside versus the inside.
So what I will do is I'll send you my home safety blueprint, Anna. Okay, and it'll help you guide. It'll explain the layers again, but it'll help. It's got questions like, do you have this? And if you do, explain it. But it's for you. And then what you do is you fill out this plan, and then you start to prioritize. You go, okay, what do I need really to complete my layers or make them more complete? And safety, as you know, is iterative. It's step by step. It's not something that you go out and spend $1 million on, because the bad guys figure out ways of around your stuff. Just like online, you know, you get this patch or update, and you install the update, and then you're safe against that particular thing. And then they find a different way around it. So real bad guys are the exact same. So we should constantly be evolving our safety. You know.
Would the so thanks. I mean, I look forward to that blueprint. Would that also be available to the audience if they wanted to find out more? I guess the best would be to also then get in touch with you and do like book an actual course, right? Or like an online course, or maybe, I mean, I know you do workshops also for companies and come in and help them, and you know, just listening to you, it's great. Like I get so many action items that I took some notes, but the one thing that I learned is how little I know, and I think all of us need to invest in ourselves and in our kids and do more proactively. And that's why it's great to have you know, experts like yourself that specialize in that, and sort of book a course or a workshop. I think could be a good idea to learn more about it. I mean, we can't cover that in an hour. I mean, there's too many facets, but at least we've touched on quite a bit. And yeah, I think, like, just looking at the time, I just want to summarize some of the things I've learned. So there's a definite there are definite similarities between the online and the offline world. In fact, there's quite a bit of convergence too. Both the bad guys and the good guys use digital means. So it is just the new reality. But the one common thread, I think, through all of that is that being aware and planning is your number one defense. And that applies to the offline and the online world. So if we can teach our children one thing, it is how to be more present, I guess. Like you mentioned the example of, if we walk into a restaurant, teach them how to like just see the things in a room, identify the hotspots, not from a security point of view, just to raise, like, teach them how to be more aware and in the moment, which is also a good wellness technique anyway, right? We should be more present and not always be distracted, but also being aware of the threats and the risks, and then planning against them, or planning, coming up with a strategy to identify where our weakness or our weak spots are, be that online or in the house or wherever, and then coming up with a strategy and rehearsing that, like really role playing a lot, and especially for the kids, they don't understand the words per se, but they understand the stories and the role playing. That I thought that was a really good technique or tip.
Thank you very much.
From your point of view, thank you. Like, if you can, do you have any closing thoughts or just a wrap up that you would want the audience to take away?
I think, if anything, I would like them to take away the difference between safety and emergency. Okay, I know we didn't cover it, but it's the most important thing I ever learned when it comes to safety. The difference between safety and emergency. Safety is what you do before with unlimited time, unlimited imagination, and unlimited resources. So what I'm saying is, from now, this is now, until it happens. Emergency is what you do with what you did before. So if you did nothing before, and I know your companies know before, if you did nothing before, you have only luck here. And there's two kinds of luck, good luck and bad luck. So the more you prepare, and the more you role play, and the more you plan and think about it and practice, because in all the workshops I've ever done, you know, I say to people, well, what would you do if somebody stuck a gun in your face and said, give me your money? They say, I'll give it. But when I stick a gun in their face and start screaming at them, they can't, because they've never practiced it. So what happens is they freeze. They just look at me. And then I have to slap them, you know, which is always fun for me, but not such fun for them. But it's a good lesson for them, because it teaches them about, they have to practice. So you have to plan and you have to practice. And I think you were spot on with that. And thank you so much, Anna. I've had a jewel.
Cool. Thank you, Kelee. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening. Please do stay in touch. You can find Kelee or myself on LinkedIn as well as Twitter. And if you want to book a personal safety workshop, just go to personalsafety.co.za. And you can also find more about online cybersecurity at know4.com. Thank you all and stay safe.